We're ready.
Buffalo Brother George, how are you today?
John, how are you?
I'm
I
good.
how do you like my logo?
I like your logo. It's very nice. It's very shiny.
I like it too, except it's not my computer. That's why, I'm in the middle of moving to Florida. So Gina hooked me up on her computer and we could do this State of the Bills emergency show.
I tell you what, whatever computer you got there, it's a nice picture.
I know.
It's a must be a nice laptop. All right. Well, it's not really a state of the emergency. We were going to talk about whether or not Jonathan Taylor makes sense for the Bills.
Well, first, before we do that, and yes, that's what we set this up for. As everybody's reporting, Jonathan Taylor wants to leave the Colts. The Colts today gave him permission to go seek a trade.
Right?
And then if he can talk another team into giving the Colts whatever it is that they're asking for, and it sounds like they want a first round pick, then maybe he can come to terms with that new team and move on. But just a quick mention, there was some news yesterday or the day before, Stephen A talking about how Stefon Diggs was didn't want to stay as a Buffalo Bill, and he was unhappy here. And he had sources that told him that that Diggs wants out. And Diggs came out today and says that that's just not true. Bills Mafia, I'm here. This is what I like. I want to retire as a Bill and blah, blah. So who knows? Who knows? I believe Stephen A would have reliable sources. I do believe that. And whether Diggs is trying to cover that up, I don't know. Quite frankly, I don't care. That's what I say about it. If he's that unhappy, he was unhappy in Minnesota, then I hope he should find what makes him happy. But he does deny it, and so I don't know if it's much of a story. But I thought we should just mention it.
Okay. What I saw today from Stephen A, he doubled down, saying that it was two sources and not just one.
Okay.
But he came off it a little bit, I thought, in that he was specifying at some point during the summer, Stefon Diggs wasn't feeling the Bills anymore.
Well, we know that.
Right.
He wasn't feeling them at the end of last year.
Whether wasn't feeling the Bills translates to I want out of this place or I want changes made, whatever it is that really means, we don't know. I will say this, as Stephen A has been around a long time and he certainly knows what he's doing.
Yes, absolutely.
But I don't give credence to sports reporter scoops like I would to say if the Washington Times does a scoop on, something going on with the State Department. Like, yeah. I feel like if they put that out in print, then they probably do indeed have multiple sources who are separate and who each don't have an axe to grind and wouldn't be making it up, So I just feel, if his sources are agents or people who work at guy's agent or family members, it's pretty clear from what he was saying. Doesn't sound like he was talking to Stefon himself.
No, right.
And there'd be very little documentation to back this up. So.
And the thing is, John, he's here this year. I'm sure he's just as anxious to play and win a Super Bowl this year as he's been in the past.
Yeah.
You see how animated he gets and how upset he gets. McDermott always talks about everybody doing their 111. My guess is that Diggs is realizing that he's doing his 111, but there's too many other people not doing their 111.
Yeah, when he finally did talk to the press this year, I say finally because he didn't really all summer. Um, he really did. I felt like he really did kind of squash. He didn't deny anything.
Yeah,
And I think what he said that he was proud to be here and that, he's proud to be a captain on the team and be a team leader.
right, right.
And I think we've seen on the field that he is a team leader. So,
And quite frankly, whatever he was feeling at the end of last year or going into the OTAs this year, who knows what's going to happen throughout this year and into next year? Who
that's right.
knows?
That's right.
So
We could have a
I
new
wondered
offensive
if
coordinator.
I just wonder if Stephen A. I believe Stephen A. and I respect him and I think he knows what he's talking about and I believe that he's got sources. But was it really worth mentioning? It's like you're stirring up the pot, but there's really nothing there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't ever got a sense of when his sources talked to him.
Exactly.
Was it during the summer
Right.
or was it just this past week? I'm not sure. I also it's interesting that it would come out. Is it a coincidence that it happened to come out this week when they've had a bad showing,
Yeah.
or is this when he found out so he wouldn't
He
lie?
just he just kind of said it in the course of a conversation that had nothing to do with the Bills or that, and it's like, why are you bringing this up? Well, as far as I'm concerned, enough on that. The big news is Jonathan Taylor is gotten permission to find a trade partner,
Right.
and so what we're here to do is first say what would it take to get him, and number two, would the Bills be willing to spend that capital? And number three, if they got him, would they use him?
That's a good question. All
So,
day long.
so the first thing I'm hearing is that they're looking for a first round draft choice. And when I look at the Bills, and you always hear about everybody today, they're saying nobody wants to draft a running back in the first round. But now the Colts are getting greedy, saying, "Well, we'll take a first round draft pick. Otherwise, we're not going to let him go." And he's going to put on his cleats and go out there and play for the Colts this year. But if we can get somebody to give us a first round pick, maybe we'll take it. And looking at the Bills' position, if they're where we hope they are, you're talking anywhere from the 25th pick to the 31st pick.
Right.
And 25th to 31st, would that be worth a running back that's 24 years old and you get him this year, a year ahead of that pick, and maybe put you in a Super Bowl contention? I, for one, say, yeah, I think I would do it, John.
Okay.
Another person was saying, well, maybe they want a first round pick for him, even though I don't know if they spent a first round pick on him or not. Would they be willing to take a Bills first round pick that's on the team? Like, would they take Kaiir Elam, being that they really need run or cornerbacks?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Would they take Kaiir Elam and a fifth rounder or fourth rounder or something? I don't know if they would. But I mean, would you give up Kaiir Elam and a fifth rounder and get Jonathan Taylor? I think I would, but
In a heartbeat. Yeah, in a heartbeat.
and then the next thing is, and you can please go right ahead and whenever you're ready and jump in there. But the next thing is how much you got to pay him. I think I read that he was going to make $5 million this year, 5.1 or something like that. And the Bills have just over $6 million under the cap right now. So they could afford him this year if that's what they wanted to do. But you're going to also have to sign him. This is his last year on his rookie deal. You're going to have to sign him he's probably going to want 4 or 5 year contract, don't you think?
He's going to want a bunch of guaranteed money.
And he's been
Oh.
talking about people say that he's been talking about it. He wants to be the highest paid running back, which is McCaffrey right now, who's making 16 million a year. So are you going to give him 16, 17, 18 million dollars a year? And if so, where are you going to get that money?
Well, a couple of thoughts. I understand the Colts are asking for a first rounder. McCaffrey, who actually is a little bit older,
Right.
but he went for a second, I think a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth in the following year. So he went for a suite of picks.
Yeah.
I think the Bills would probably trade something. They might do a second and a four. They might do some combination of picks. Whether that's the first or not, or first and
Right.
something the next year.
Right.
That's what they did to get Diggs.
Right.
So we know that they have done some stuff like that in the past. But I often wondered if the reason they were not really in the McCaffrey sweepstakes was because McCaffrey really wanted to go to California.
Yes, right.
And as long as the 49ers were in the mix, he wasn't going to commit to Buffalo. Like the Bills, like the 49ers, in order to make that trade, you got to sign him for a long-term deal. You got to keep him. So I've often wondered if they really, for the Bills, if that would have been I'll do 1 year and then I'm a free agent.
Right.
And he wouldn't have been willing to commit. So it'll be interesting because if they do make a move and sign him, it might be an indication that the problem with McCaffrey was McCaffrey had other options and he wanted to go somewhere else.
Right.
He's a class guy. He wasn't going to say that publicly, but that's what it was. I don't care about the cap. They could redo people's deals to free up cap space. So I don't want to hear about that.
Quite frankly, John, they got a guy is an edge rusher, and we all know it's Von Miller. They signed him for like 3 years, didn't they?
It's a multi-year deal.
It's a multi-year deal, and he missed a good chunk of last year, including the playoffs. He's not gonna play the whole part this year. Who knows?
Who knows what
game?
We
don't even know when he's going to start and if he's going to stay healthy,
or what level he'll be playing at.
So it's like they got an option to come up with money. He's not going to be here forever, and even if he is, he's not doing us any good, quite frankly.
That's right.
So there's money to be had. Yes, they have other needs. They still got to settle the linebacker. They're still looking for that number 2 wide receiver. There are definitely needs out there. But
yeah, I can't imagine that an Elam for Jonathan Taylor trade would be the Colts would certainly want more.
Absolutely.
Than Kaiir Elam. Right? You're talking about a guy who can't break into the starting lineup versus a fellow who is the best or second best running back in the league. But they would certainly want more. But
they're going to want Trey White.
Well, and therein lies the problem. I don't think he would be available.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now you're talking about taking the Bills out of
absolutely
contention for the division, championship. But Elam and Cook, 2 guys both on their rookie deals, a first, now a second. Put them both together, and maybe you still got to sweeten the pot with a third or a fourth, but maybe there's a deal in that. I don't know. Jonathan Taylor makes Cook kind of expendable.
Well, it makes Cook the number 2 running back and a passing option. So, which I think is what he is anyway.
Well, that's what he is, but when you get Taylor, you no longer need him. He's catches passes.
Yeah,
You don't
well,
need that. You got every down back.
yes, I agree with you. And
So then you're just looking for backups.
yeah, I agree with you, John. So I think they've got options. I think they've got players they could trade or draft choices they could trade. I think they can come up with the money to pay him. But now it comes down to,
Would they do it?
would they use him anyway?
Uh,
You're talking about changing their offense. A guy that got 1,800 yards last year on the ground. I don't even know if our entire offense got 1,800 yards on it. I think they did, but it took like three players to do it.
I'm sure Allen was included.
So
But I don't know if they got quite that much, but it was the whole team versus just him. Now they wouldn't necessarily need 1,800 yards, rushing yards from him, as that's not really their offense. So whether or not he could be a dynamic player and a real weapon for them, I don't think he plays special teams, and I don't think you would do that with him.
no, but
We
you
wouldn't
know what,
ask
John?
about that.
If a guy like that kind of talent has the ball, when they do use him, it could be naturally more yards. You know what I mean? He could be 1,000-yard runner or 1,200-yard runner in a Bills offense.
So the
And
question
if he-
becomes, do you pay that for a fella you're going to give the ball to 12 times a game?
Well,
And are they willing to change the offense enough to make him, to make it worthwhile to spend that? And I don't
guess
know
I
that
guess
they are.
I guess I'm saying, do they give him the ball enough times that all the defenses now have to consider him? And it changes the way the defenses attack the Bills.
No.
Instead of only 4 guys rushing and they're flooding all the passing zones, are they going to, and instead of the front line always being in pass rush mode, by having that kind of a power running, well, not power, but a kind of running
Threat.
Yeah, that's effective. They're going to have to play honest, and that could give, let's say it. Maybe Josh Allen doesn't have to throw 37 times a game.
Well, the ability to play, like right now, a lot of defenses play the Bills with a 6-man front.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bills have, unless Allen runs with the ball, they're not in a position to punish them for that.
Yeah, and if you put Jonathan Taylor out there and they only put out a 6-man front, here's the kind of guy that could take advantage of that. Here's the kind of guy that might be able to leak out from the backfield and catch a pass. And I think it totally changes the dynamic of that team without having to totally change their offense.
Yeah, a lot of times when a running back catches the ball in the backfield, they have to make the first guy miss.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he can do that.
He can do that.
And then the defense is in trouble.
Yes.
Then they had better be in position to be ready for that. So yeah, I think if you can force defenses out of 6-man fronts a lot, so that when you do pass, when you get the ball, Bills often pass on first down. Well, when a defense sets up for that, they could punish them by running Taylor. And if they set up to stop, more balanced defense, they could punish them by running. It gives their balance more threat.
I don't think there's a single team in this league that's afraid of James Cook. And and I as much as I like Latavius Murray, let's face it, he's on the retirement side of his playing days, and still he can be productive, but that is not the same as Jonathan Taylor. And when you got him back there, and I don't think they only run him 13 times a game, but it could be 18 to 20, and that could totally, and even if they only ran him 15 to 16 times,
Yeah, right. It can be
15 to 16 times, if he's getting over 5 yards a carry, you're talking about, 80, 90 yards a game out of him, which is better than our other running backs put together.
Okay, so I got right now. This is the first year that they're paying Allen.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying Von Miller.
Right.
They're paying Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with them pushing the bill kicking the can down the road and coming up with a deal. This year, they could fit him in because he's still on his rookie deal.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with them figuring out a way to kick that can down the road a little bit and bring in a Jonathan Taylor. In fact, I think they absolutely should.
And I think about it and say to myself, we've been to one AFC Championship game, and we know what happened. And we were in the 13-second game, right?
Yep.
We know what happened with Cincinnati last year. We still have had a good team, but all the other teams are coming up around us. And we still say to ourselves, we still need this, or we still need that, or the offense is, when the offense goes onto the field, they hand off the ball and somebody picks up 1 yard. So now it's 2nd and 9.
Yeah.
If Josh doesn't connect on the next pass, the next play, then we're in 3rd and long, and he's running for his life. So you got to have. Imagine if that first down was, instead of 1 yard, it was 5 yards. That totally changes how Dorsey can call plays. And if they don't do something this year, I think we're going to see people in trouble.
Right now, and it hasn't changed. We've talked about this before. What player on this team is a guy who could get a touchdown any given time he gets the ball? We're hoping it's James Cook, but we don't know that we even have one.
We just haven't seen it.
We don't. Well, I don't think it's Dalton Kincaid. So right now, I don't know that we have that guy.
Right.
In one move, they could get that guy.
Yes.
Given time, they get to put the ball in his hand. He could take it to the house, and defenses have to respect it.
I mean, if they have to pull another linebacker up close or a safety up next to their 2 linebackers, if that's what they're playing, and all of a sudden they got 7 guys in the box because of Taylor, just think what it's going to be like if you had 12 personnel and you got Kincaid and Knox flooding out on the leftover linebackers.
Now, how often do the Bills play? Their base defense is 5 defensive backs, right? 2 linebackers, 5 defensive backs.
Right.
We've seen them take the slot corner out and put in a linebacker when they're getting their ass kicked on the ground.
Yeah.
Now, if the Bills could force a team to have to do that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And then take advantage of Allen's passing, or the other way around. The Bills use Allen's passing to force a team out of 3 linebacker sets and then run on them.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's time. It's really time for the Bills to start saying, we have to dictate to that defense how they're going to have to play us and change it up play by play and keep them on their toes, instead of letting that defense dictate to us. How are we going to try and attack that defense? We don't know what they're doing,
Well, I hear you. And I think that in some ways the Bills do dictate, but it's through a variety of passing.
Yes.
They don't punish anyone with a running attack. Yeah.
Yes, they do it in a variety of passing, but the defense is already set with flooding the zones against the pass.
Yeah.
And if you have got that dynamic running back, they have to stay balanced on defense. They can't cheat.
Now, the other thing that we haven't seen on this team, well, since McDermott has been, since McDermott, look, we're not a team that can run the ball in the red zone. And we haven't been unless Allen runs it.
Yes.
In one swoop, you now are a threat to run the ball in the red zone.
It totally changes the offense. Or it totally changes the threat of that offense, is what I should say. I'm not saying it's going to change the offense and how we play. It's going to change how the defense are going to worry about how we play.
All right. So that's it. Look.
Were they going to do it?
I was just about to say.
If I had to sit here and say, will the Bills do it? My guess would be, no, they ain't going to do it.
I was going to say, use your bat phone, call Brandon, tell him to get on it. He could lose a little sleep tonight, stay up, contact the Colts, work on a deal, get it done tonight. There's no reason to wait.
I hope they're working on it. I hope they're looking at it. I hope that, because John, we already got Delvin Cook now in the division. And if somebody like Miami comes up with Jonathan Taylor, that's going to be devastating. And even if he doesn't go to Miami, but if he goes to Baltimore, Kansas City, now we got to worry about him. And it's just, they've got to, unless he goes to the NFC, I think if he goes to the AFC, I think what's his name? Bean. If he goes to the AFC team, I think Bean has to be on the hot seat.
Okay, so I will, although I'm totally for this move, the one concern that I could see, I've already said one concern, of course, would be salary cap. Yeah. But I don't care. The one concern I could see is if they are worried about the personality that they're adding to the locker room. When Jordan Poyer's contract was up and he was on his last year, he came in and he was here for spring trade. He was here for training camp and he played. When
didn't he drive himself halfway across the country to a game when he was injured?
He was injured. He wasn't allowed to fly. He drove himself. Was it like Denver, Colorado, or something? When Milano was down to his last year of his deal, came to training camp and he played. Now, with both of those guys, they hit free agency and they ultimately came back to Buffalo. Tremaine Edmonds played out the last year of his deal. And then he got signed by another team. Jonathan Taylor isn't that guy. Like he's about to enter the last year of his deal. He was drafted in the second round, so there's no fifth-year option. He's about to enter the last year of his deal, and him and the Colts are at an impasse, and he's telling them he wants to trade. So they would be adding someone to the locker room he's demonstrated his personality isn't what they've looked for in the past. He's not a Christian McCaffrey. So that could be a concern. I think that locker room is strong enough with enough veterans that they could absorb that, and his impact would be minimal, but that is a concern. Like, I know he'll be happy in that when he agrees to come, he'll have gotten his deal that he's happy with.
I also think that I was on the tip of my tongue and now I forget it. Okay. It's really hot here and I'm getting old. What can I tell you?
Okay.
I know what I was going to say. Indianapolis, it's the business side of it. They got him under contract for like $4 or $5 million this year. And then, next year, all they're going to do is put the franchise tag on him, pay him $10 million or $11 million. and they're going to drag it out. You know what I mean? And
Until they get a replacement.
I think Jonathan Taylor is trying to beat that.
Well, listen, I understand the reasons. What I'm saying is when he comes, if he comes here, he won't come if they won't bring him if they don't have a deal with them.
Mhm.
So he'll have his money, he'll have his deal, he'll have his guarantee.
Yeah.
But as the future unfolds and additional players that are already on the roster are coming up on their last year, Gabe Davis did not hold out this year. There'll be somebody in the locker room who has demonstrated that he's willing to hold the team for ransom, and he'll be counseling his teammates to do the same because it is a business.
Well, and for the Bills, they got to pick their spots.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about they need this running back for a lot of years now.
You and I have.
Yeah.
But so far, they've spent 2 30 and 1 second round picks on running backs. And I was a little surprised they spent a second round pick on one last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I both kind of came to the conclusion that the guy they wanted wasn't there on the board anymore. They moved back, they moved around.
Yeah.
So this could be their chance to get they're going to have to pay for him.
They're going to have to pay
I don't
for
know
him.
if they're willing to pay that
Yeah.
much, pay out of pocket and pay resources and draft picks or
You know,
players,
injuries aside, I mean, you never know what's going to happen to a player.
right?
But you got a guy who is young. He's 24 years old, and he's already proven to be one of the very best, if not, I don't know if I want to call him the best, but he's on the verge of being the best running back in this league.
Top two.
You know, you're going to pay for it, but you're going to get the guy. You know, we got the guy in Stephon Diggs. We think we got the guy in Josh Allen, and
The guy on defense has a knee injury.
yeah, the guy on defense is Von Miller. I mean, I understand why they did it, and I don't think they overpaid for him, but it's proven that he's just can't stay healthy now. And but it's not a long-term deal, and that money's going to come back to us. And are you going to risk that money and try and sign another rookie edge rusher, or would you spend the money and say, you know, we can lock up this running back for another 5 years? He's still got lots of tread on the tire.
Yeah, I think they're in a position where, like, look, this is Allen's 6th year. Half of his career is over.
Yeah, right.
Half of his career is over.
This is his window.
This is
And
it.
you can get a running back that can get you a first down, score a touchdown, catch a pass, move the chains, and probably block. I don't know. We never really saw a lot of indie games, but
All right, listen, I'm with you. I think we both decided they should do it. I think you should get on the phone, call Brandon right away.
I'll do it.
All right.
I'll set up smoke signals.
Go
All right.
Bills.
Go Bills. And
Thank you for watching.
Okay, bye.